Hello Tech Pros, episode 166.
Just make it more open-ended than the standardized test style.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Andy Haskell. Happy Friday, Andy.
Yeah, happy Friday.
Are you ready for the weekend?
Totally. Yeah, going up to Micro Panda Accelerator, also known as my parents' house on the North Shore.
Why on earth do you call it Micro Panda Accelerator?
That's where I do all my weekend tech side projects, and also our dog Lola literally looks like a little panda.
Oh, awesome! What flavor of dog is she? I don't know how to say that. What species? What type of dog is she?
Her breed is a Havanese.
A Havanese?
Yeah, they're like the national dog breed of Cuba.
Wow, cool. I haven't seen that before, or I haven't heard of that. I'm not a big dog person, but maybe we're gonna have to get a picture of the puppy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you go on Lola Micro Panda on Twitter, then there's 300 pictures of her on there.
So your dog has her own Twitter account?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty much actually started as a joke from one of my Halloween costumes on the job, because I was trying to be one of those startup bros, and decided to make her our CTO because she's good at browser sniffing.
That's awesome. Well, before we get too far into Micro Panda accelerators and startup bros, let's do a little introduction here. So Andy Haskell is a web software engineer at Meta Search in Cambridge, which is like a Google search for your files. Andy also runs the blog Computer Science for the Slothful and is one of the organizers of the Boston Golang. When he's not coding, you can find Andy running or gaming. Don't ask, this is a public service announcement right here, don't ask Andy about sloths or Pokemon unless you want to have a 45-minute conversation on either of those topics. So you know what, I'm not going to say any more. I'm not going to do any more about sloths or Pokemon. It really, really triggers this inquisitive piece of my brain that makes me want to say, Andy, why not? Why do we want to talk about this? But I don't want to have a 45-minute conversation on Today People Friday. So you know what? We're going to have to bring you back for maybe a Sunday being unplugged to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, Slothful Sunday.
Slothful Sunday. I love it. That'll be perfect. Perfect name for an upcoming podcast with Andy Haskell. Slothful Sunday and Pokemon.
Yeah, instead of doing the interview over Skype, we could do it over Pokemon Go.
Now that would be interesting. I wonder if anybody has actually tried to do that before. I don't really know much about Pokemon Go. I hate to drop my nerd cred down a few levels, but I installed it. I found one little creature here in my house, and I collected him. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to get my 6-year-old daughter involved or not. And then it was like, oh, it looks like we're going to have to drive all over town in order to find these creatures. And I don't want her going off by herself and trying to find things without me around. So tell you what, in a future Sunday, we're going to have to bring you back. And we're going to have to talk about playing Pokemon Go, what it's all about, being slothful at the same time, and having a great time doing it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, funny thing is, I actually am our lowest ranking member in Pokemon Go on the team.
You have a team? You have a Pokemon?
I'm talking about a meta. There's some real hardcore Pokemon Go players on the team here.
Nice. Cool. Well, we're going to have to talk all about that. But today, as you know, Andy, is People Friday on Hello Tech Pros. And speaking of teams, you know what? It's not about what you know. In a lot of cases, what I found out, it's about who you know. And you and I met actually through Twitter, through a tweet that went out from a prior episode of the Hello Tech Pros podcast. And that was an episode that I had a while back with Mr. Bill Kennedy. Now, Bill is a Go developer and he is a Go instructor. And we had a conversation on episode 54. So our audience can go out to hellotechpros.com/54 for episode 54, or you know what, on iTunes or Google or Stitcher Radio or wherever you find it. Episode 54, it's called Your Tech Interviews Are Scaring Away Brilliant People. And Bill and I talked from the perspective of hiring managers, right? From the perspective of the company owners or the CTOs or the hiring manager, whoever you are in the company with authority that says, we want to bring in a new software developer. And so here's some applicants and we want to interview them. And how in some cases the interviews can be so overly technical and talking about arcane things that you're never actually going to apply, problems that you're never actually going to apply at work or in scenarios like in a 30-minute interview where it's not really reasonable for a person to solve this problem. You're scaring away brilliant people who are awesome and would add a ton of value and character to the culture of the organization. So when I met you, Andy, it was through that. I think you had some things to say about that tweet, about that episode. But I really wanted to talk to you about your perspective of being the person applying for these jobs, right? So as a person coming in and trying to get on at a company, you're going to interviews, you're applying for jobs. I don't know if you're talking to the HR people or technical recruiters or the hiring managers directly, what the process is. But I thought this would be a great People Friday to talk to you about, as a developer who's applying for jobs, what's the process like from your perspective?
Yeah, totally. Actually, interesting thing is, interesting thing is when I've been on two full-fledged job searches, once was straight out of college, and once was well, technically also straight out of college. I was trying to get a job, trying to leave MIT to get a job, to go from academic code to a job in web development. So I've never actually had a job search where I have experience on paper in the industry I'm interviewing in. So for me, interviewing, one of the big challenges was really showing that I have coding talent in that industry, even if it's not actual work experience.
Yeah, that's always a tricky scenario, right? That's that catch-22 where it's like you need job experience to get the job, but you need the job to get the job experience, right? And so a lot of these companies, I have been a hiring manager many times where we were looking for a senior developer, a developer with 3 to 5 to 8 years of experience, and unfortunately, that can mean that the pool you're looking at excludes some people directly out of college or directly out of trade school or whatever, because they haven't yet applied their knowledge, applied their learning, and they need this entry level position sometimes to get into the work environments to start proving yourself and to get some experience.
Oh yeah, and the part about being straight out of college is just with trying to prove myself. The knowledge base that I had obviously the college knowledge base, which is kind of the pool of questions they ask you to do on a job search, the linked lists or binary trees, to really get the web experience. Had to do open source or join the community, really.
So yeah, that's very interesting. First, I got a lot of questions for you here because honestly, it's been 20 plus years since I was applying for a job without any job coding experience. So Tell you what, let me tell you my story if you don't mind, because I don't think I've ever shared this story here on Hello Tech Pros on the podcast. A few of my friends know this story, but it's been a long time. So I'll share my story, and then maybe we can get in. Well, definitely we'll get into your story after that of the first job you applied for and what that process was like.
Sure
So
thing.
cool, man. So I started writing code for fun and for hobby when I was 10 years old on the Texas Instruments TI 994A. I learned how to write code through type in programs that were in the back of Family Computing magazine. So in all the magazines, they had this list of basic code, and you had to type it in. Because there were no disks, there were no cartridges, it was just a blinking cursor that said number 10 and a blinking cursor, and so you had to do it. So I was doing that from just like playing around with it at 10 to really full on like writing programs for myself at 14, 15. And then I was a bad boy and I dropped out of college. Not because I was being bad, I was just being dorky. And I dropped out of college. And at the same time that my friends were completing their computer science degrees and moving into IT, moving into computer programming jobs, I was actually working at the public library, just shelving books and helping people check out. I was a circulation clerk. And a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, Chad, the startup that I'm working at, we're doing multimedia programming using Macromedia Director and the Lingo scripting language, and I'm sure that you could pick it up and learn it and be valuable here. We just need some more help." And they're looking for entry level people. And I said, "Great. I don't know how to do it." So I made the appointment. I called the person, the hiring manager. I talked to him on the phone, and he said, "We want you to come in, next week and do an interview." I said, "That sounds great." And at that night, I went home, like installed Director and started playing around with it, doing some tutorials. Luckily, I had a couple of friends who gave me a lot of really hands-on experience right away, right? So, okay, this is what you know about Pascal. Here's how it relates. Here's what you know about BASIC. Here's how it relates, right? And so I had, some tutoring over the weekend. I spent all nights and all weekends for the next week, like getting up to speed and trying to build one little portfolio program to show the boss that, yeah, I could do this stuff. And so I built the video game Pong, right, which is just like a little square bouncing back and forth like between these paddles, and just rebuilt that old school Atari game in this system that I was just learning. And I was so proud because I was like, you know what? The angle of reflection is equal to the angle of incidence, and I'm talking about all this physics and all these, geometries and trigonometries and all these equations and stuff that I put in it. And the hiring manager was like, Chad, that's very interesting. Why did you select this color of orange for the font? And I'm like, I have no idea. I just clicked a button and it had a color. So anyway, and then when the ball goes off the screen, like I have to measure the distance of how, and I'm going into the mathematical functions. He's like, okay, interesting. So why did you use this particular serif font as opposed to a sans serif font? And then I was like, okay, you know what? I don't think I'm appropriate for this job, because you're asking design, like visual and graphic design related questions that I literally have no idea how to answer or how to come up with the right best practices there. I'm slightly colorblind. I don't know anything about what looks good or what not. All I know how to do is code. And he said, you know what? That's the perfect answer, because I've already got 5 graphic designers that work here. I need coders, and I need people who can do that. And he hired me like on the spot, and I was blown away because I thought I had completely failed and flunked that test, and I was going to get booted out. But he gave me a shot. So there you go, Andy, and there you go, audience. There's the first experience where Chad got paid to be a programmer. So Andy, let's talk about yours. So when you applied for your first position, what was it like, and what did you do to get the job?
Yeah, I mean, really, like my job search had kind of started, it started, like a second semester of senior year at Tufts. But I mean, one of the hard parts was the I kind of figured it out that I wanted to do web development end of sophomore year, but I was in a bio major at the time, so it's like got I was like doing a bio major, so to actually like catch up enough to do computer science, I had to like start my computer science major really like halfway through college. Like I already had some of the coursework in because I was planning on doing computational biology, and so I had some of it done, but really like had to book it junior and senior year. Didn't have time to actually do it to actually do I didn't have time to actually do an internship like a lot of my peers did. So I was kind of nervous the first time I was like on the job search, and it was like really just less than 100 days away from graduation. So I mean, so because of that, I was like starting to go to more job fairs, like and both like the job fairs and like interview season over that summer. Really, my lack of experience was what got me turned down a lot like at the phone interview level. I don't really like have like a lot of vivid memories of those phone interviews. But I know they did ask some technical questions, and I think I did a good job on them. A lot of them are like questions on kind of stuff that you would be seeing it in like a college exams. So I think like the college skill set that helped me on those questions, but my weakness was like not having the job experience, which can be completely different from in college. But turns out actually that the job interview that got me my job turned out to be the machine structure and assembly language programming class I took first semester senior year, because like ultimately my job at Bonnie Berger's lab in MIT, like I got through my professor of that class, he was a grad student at the time at Tufts. So he saw like really my skill, my enthusiasm. I like started the Facebook group for the class. People could find pair programming partners, and of course like share jokes about the material. So it turned out that I really started my job search at the beginning of senior year.
That's awesome. So I love that story that you applied for a lot of jobs and you had the technical skills, you had the chops, you had the knowledge to do the work, but unfortunately they turned you down because you didn't have any hands-on actual practical experience. So what I got out of that was your kind of volunteer work or your job at the school, working in the computer lab and being a volunteer and like plugging up their Facebook
This
and
wasn't a volunteer. This is
oh, okay.
actually a student. But yeah, I suppose volunteer in the sense that I made the Facebook group.
Right. Right. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that organization, the organization of the students, and the experience that you got there working for this professor.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I wasn't really like working for this professor since this was like entirely as a student in the class.
Hmm.
Basically, the way Comp 40 works at Tufts is it's kind of like the really big programming class. Beyond that, all the required classes are more like algorithms based. But like pretty much all the assignments are pair programming. So because of that, I figured in order to make it so it's easier to find pair programming partners, I would make a Facebook group for it, which people use a lot, and also in general like make it so we like use the group to like form study groups, or just like joke around about the class, because 40 is, I mean, and especially now that like CS has become the most popular major at Tufts, I think as of 2015.
Hmm.
See it like yeah, it's like CS has pretty much made that class into one of the most infamous classes at Tufts, just because it's pretty much the reason why like your CS major friends aren't at the parties. It certainly made me into an energy drink connoisseur and frequent customer of pizza days at Tufts. But yeah, over the course of the class, like the professor, he happened to be computational biology. So he was computational biology, which was kind of one of like the other field of computer science I was really interested in. I've got the hashtag bio major here when I want to drop cheesy biology jokes. So yeah, and so I mean like we had like that field in common, but I think like really what got me to like get him to recommend me for that job was the fact that it was like just my enthusiasm that I brought into the class overall.
So it was your professor who gave you a recommendation, and from that recommendation, you were able to get a job?
He ended up also like being my interviewer for the job too. Like he was working at Bonnie's lab as a postdoc at the time. Like so because of that, like he was one of the interviewers. But I remember when I got to that interview, he actually said I would ask a technical question here, but I've already seen all your work from when I was teaching Comp 40, so I'll skip that part.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Andy, in just a moment, I want to ask you about, what we as hiring managers, what we as people who are doing the interviews, what we can do to kind of help make it easier on the applicants, or should we make it easier on the applicants? But first, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Andy Haskell. Andy is a web software engineer at MetaSearch in Cambridge, which is kind of like a Google search for your files. And Andy also runs the blog Computer Science for the Slothful and is one of the organizers of the Boston Golang. We've been talking to Andy about the process of getting your first software development job and how it can be really, really difficult to get a job with no experience, right? Because all the employers want to make sure that the person doesn't just have book smarts, book experience, but actually hands-on experience writing the code. And so Andy shared a story about, it was really one of his professors, one of the people that worked in the school that hired him and was the first interviewer that accepted him and gave him a position. And that was because that professor knew the experience that Andy had in the labs and saw the work that Andy was doing in school. And so he had a really unique position, a really unique circumstance where he had to show something. He had to show work, projects that he had actually worked on to someone to actually get them to accept him, to hire him. And very similar circumstance, I shared my story about the first job that I got. I felt the need to, I needed to actually build a prototype, right? Build a product that I could show off and give to the hiring manager as, here's an example of something that I did. So Andy, of all these rejections that you got, all these no's that you got from people who wanted someone with more experience, you said, he's kind of fuzzy, don't really remember a lot of details about those. But is there any feedback that you could give back to the hiring managers, to the people who are doing the hiring and doing the interviews, to help us be more aware of what the interviewee is going for or going through, so that we can make that experience a little better?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'd say like the interviewing season I really remember well was the one last summer that got me into meta search. I actually say Meta did like really exemplary job at the interview process. It's like the first part of the interview, I was more or less chatting with the CTO Aaron Taylor, and hearing about really like hearing about really corporate culture. I was hearing about like how we do our workflow, which was really different from my first job at MIT. Just the fact like collaboration was like emphasized a whole lot more. I mean, first of all, like interviews, I'd say the interviewee should be able to learn to like really like do some of the interviewing themselves. Like they could say the interviewee can really learn a lot about what it's like to work at the company, like, and see if like this is a team that they want to be on as well. And also the goal of the interview, it shouldn't be like some sort of like standardized test or something where like it's like seeing if someone can like implement quicksort in a language that isn't Haskell, or not knocking my last name or anything, or like do binary search. I mean, the other thing was like the technical questions. Those actually were asked online in kind of a preliminary interview on HackerRank, and it's like we went through like all my answers to those questions, including the wrong answers, which I thought that was really valuable because you could like convey your thought process. So you could see like you really see like I think Bill Kennedy's interview actually mentioned something like that, that they're like screening more for thought process than correct answers. And I think that was really valuable because on interviews where it's really short, where it's really short, you definitely can't get into like saga length problem solving, where it's like a full-fledged problem that you could see on the job, unless you're just like really creative, or like one of those unicorn startups that ends up making a big Legends of the Hidden Temple obstacle course or something.
Right.
Yeah, actually that would be more when the startup goes decacorn than unicorn, I think.
Awesome. Well, Andy, I love this. I love this thought that one of the points that you brought up, that it really is a two-way interview, right? It's not just the employer interviewing the employee or potential employee. It's the potential employee or the candidate also interviewing the company. Because as you know, like software developers, or just people in technology in general, the STEM fields, the technology fields are more and more in demand every year, which means the companies are going to have to do just as much marketing and selling themselves and pitching themselves to the potential candidates, especially the top tier, really, really good candidates, as much as anybody else, right? So it's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way interview. And I really implore the interviewees or the candidates to really take the opportunity when they do get an interview, to not just say yes right away, and to not just sit there and answer the questions, but create a two-way conversation by asking those questions. What is the culture like? What is your company all about? Like, what do you guys stand for? And just whatever questions that's on your mind, please speak up and ask them, because to me as a hiring manager, that tells me that you're interested. Like, you're not here just for the paycheck. You're not here just for the code or just for the project, that you're really interested in me as a manager, what my style is. You're interested in the culture of the organization and how we're going to fit together as a better team. And, what we all stand for. Make sure that our mission and values are aligned.
Yeah, very well said there.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Tell you what, I'll let you have the last word or next to last word by sharing your final words of wisdom for the audience, and then Andy, the best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
I'd say for those of you out interviewing, that was one like I said, one of the best pieces of advice I had gotten for a job interview is you're interviewing right back. So you don't just want to know what's your language stack, what you'll be making. You really want to know is this the team that you want to be on? For me, I wanted to know how active I'd be able to be in the Go community outside of work, and the answer Meta was very active, very active. Actually, this year I got to go to GopherCon, which was like totally awesome. So yeah, make sure to make sure to keep those interviews two-way, and make it really an interviewer is just make it more open-ended than the standardized test style. And you can find me on Twitter. I drop a lot of tweets as Andy Haskell 2013. That was the year I graduated Tufts, and you can also follow my dog on Twitter. She's Lola Micro Panda, and she really does look like a panda. So if you're in tech and looking for your cute fix, then Lola will deliver. And also my blog is Computer Science for the Slothful. The website is csfortheslothful.blogspot.com, and as far as I know, it's the only tech blog out there that's about sloths.
That's awesome. I love it. We are definitely going to have to bring you back on a Sunday to get unplugged and talk about the favorite aspects of being a sloth. So, Andy, I really appreciate you coming on the episode today and sharing me your perspective of really being the candidate, because gosh, it's been a long time for me since I was in that position. And I think sometimes those of us that have experience, that have a lot of experience, have been around the block a few times, been around the sun a few more times than we can count. It has been a while since we've been in that position of really applying for a job where we had no experience or just school experience and no hands-on stuff. So I think it's really important to get this perspective out there. There's probably other audience members who are also very thankful to hear your perspective, because they are in the same situation. There may be college students, there may be high school students, of how do I go through this process and get some experience if I can't get any experience because I can't get hired, but I can't get hired because I don't have it, right? In that endless loop that we get in. And so I think your story is very enlightening and very educational and very inspiring as well. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thanks. Yeah, good to drop some break statements into the infinite loops there.
Awesome. I love it. Tech Pros, if you are in this position where you're applying for a job but you don't know how to get the job because you don't have experience, go get some experience on your own. Like, sometimes you're not going to get it until you give it, if that makes sense.
Also speaking of that was something else. That was one other final remark. Make sure really get involved in the community for the languages and the technologies that you really want to work in. because that's a really that's a really helped me out with getting the job at Meta was getting involved in Boston Golang, and the process meeting like the whole Go community on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You need to know the what's, right? You need to know your business, whatever the business is, whether it's writing code or whether it's building servers or whether it's doing whatever it is, right? Medicine, biotech, whatever area that you're in, you need to know that material. But really, the biggest lessons you're going to learn are those hands-on lessons, those life experience lessons after you get the job. So all the work that you did in college, unfortunately, is just kind of like a baseline to get you started. But then the real education starts when you get that first job. To get that first job, you need to be connected with a community. You need to reach out. You need to have people around you that you can be part of their social network. They can be part of yours and spread the good word about how awesome you are, like we learned about Andy today. You've been listening to Andy Haskell, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/166. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been People Friday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss entrepreneurship. On Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology. And then back again on Friday to talk people and communication. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.